My name is Fiona Enright. I am 32 years old, and on May 11th, I walked down the aisle completely alone. 68 invitations. My mother RSVP'd no for the entire family. My father called to say he would not walk me down the aisle to that electrician. My sister texted 3 words. You're embarrassing us. I married Nathan anyway. 200 guests watched me walk that aisle by myself. But what none of them expected, what I had planned for 6 months in secret, happened at exactly 3:14 in the afternoon. A door at the back of the venue opened. Every single guest turned around. A woman in a blue dress walked toward us. Nathan dropped to his knees right there at the altar. He whispered one word, and by midnight, 14 million people had watched that moment. Before I tell you the full story, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And if you are watching, drop a comment with where you are tuning in from and your local time. I love reading those. Now, let me take you back to September of last year. To the day Nathan Calloway walked into my clinic with a busted fuse panel and a smile that changed everything. I grew up in Waterbury, Connecticut. 2-story colonial. Green shutters. The kind of house that looks like it has a happy family inside. My father Robert sold insurance. My mother Diane answered phones at a dental office. They were not wealthy, but my mother wanted everyone to believe they were. Diane Enright grew up on the east side of Waterbury. Her father drove a sanitation truck. She never talked about him. She never talked about any of it. By the time I was born, she had erased every trace of where she came from and replaced it with catalog furniture and Sunday brunch at the country club. My sister Vanessa was 3 years older, prettier, louder, better at performing the version of our family my mother wanted to project. Vanessa married Todd Holt, a CPA with a firm handshake and a BMW. My mother threw Vanessa a $90,000 wedding at the Farmington Club. Orchids flown in from Ecuador. A 12-piece band. My father gave a speech that lasted 12 minutes. I counted. I was the quiet one. The one who studied. The one who paid for nursing school with federal loans and overnight shifts at a rehab facility. I earned my nurse practitioner certification at 28. I bought my own townhouse at 30. My mother never once asked how. The only comment she ever made about my career was at Vanessa's bridal shower. I was arranging napkins. She leaned in and said, "Your sister married up. You could learn from her." I folded the napkin, set it down, and said nothing. I was 28 years old. I had been saying nothing my entire life. Nathan walked into my clinic on a Tuesday in September. The fuse panel in examination room 3 had been tripping for weeks. My office manager finally called someone. A white truck pulled into the lot at 7:45 in the morning. Calloway Electric. 1 employee. That was him. He was 32. Tall. Broad across the shoulders. Hands calloused in a way that suggested 10,000 hours of work before he ever picked up a business card. He had a quiet voice and a careful way of moving through a room. Like he was always aware of how much space he was allowed to take up. He fixed the panel in 2 hours. Then he noticed the wiring in our break room was running hot. He fixed that too. Did not charge for it. I brought him coffee at 9. He was sitting on the floor of the hallway testing a circuit with a meter that looked older than both of us. "You like what you do?" I asked. "Every day." He looked up. "That's why I respect it." I did not know what to say to that. Most people apologize for their jobs. He honored his. He finished at 11, packed his tools neatly into a steel box, left his card on the counter. Calloway Electric. Licensed and bonded. A phone number in blue ink. I kept that card in my desk drawer for 3 weeks. I told myself I was keeping it in case the wiring acted up again. That was a lie. The wiring was fine. On day 21, I called. Not about the wiring. "This is Fiona, from the clinic." Pause. Then, "I was hoping you'd call." 4 months later, I brought Nathan to my parents' house for dinner. I knew it was a risk. Nathan wore a clean flannel shirt and his good boots. He brought a bottle of wine. He held my hand in the driveway and said, "If they don't like me, that's on them. Not on us." My mother opened the door. She smiled. It was the smile she used at the dental office. Professional, positioned, empty. "So," she said at the table, pouring Nathan exactly half a glass of wine, "what exactly does an electrician do all day?" Nathan set his fork down. "I wire hospitals, schools, and homes. I make sure the lights come on and nothing catches fire." Vanessa laughed, a nervous laugh. Todd, the CPA, studied his plate. My father asked Nathan how much he made. "Right there. Over the roast chicken." Nathan did not flinch. "Enough to take care of what matters." My father nodded like that meant something. My mother pressed her lips together. In the kitchen, while I loaded the dishwasher, Vanessa whispered, "He's cute, but Mom is going to lose it." "She's already losing it," I said. At the door, after Nathan had thanked them both and shaken my father's hand, my mother pulled me aside. She put her hand on my arm, the one she used when she wanted me to believe she was being kind. "He seems nice, Fiona, but nice doesn't pay the bills." I looked at her hand on my arm. I thought about the $90,000 she had spent on Vanessa's wedding without blinking. I thought about the zero she had spent on my education. "Good night, Mom." That was all I said. Nathan proposed on a Saturday in January, Hammonasset Beach. The wind was sharp and the sand was frozen, and he got down on one knee with a ring he had made himself. It was copper wire, plated in silver. Thin. Elegant. He twisted it into a knot pattern that looked like two currents crossing. "Copper conducts," he said. "Just like us." I said yes before he finished the sentence. I called my mother first. Not because I wanted her approval, because I wanted to give her the chance to be happy for me. One chance. The phone rang 4 times. She picked up. "Mom, Nathan proposed." I said yes. Silence. I could hear the television in the background, my father watching something, the sound of a life continuing undisturbed. "An electrician, Fiona. Really." 4 words. No congratulations. No, "Let me see the ring." No, "When is the date?" Just 4 words that told me everything I needed to know. My father did not get on the phone. Vanessa texted 20 minutes later. "Congrats, I guess. Mom's been crying." I stared at that text for a long time. My mother was crying. Not because she was losing a daughter. Not because she was gaining a son. She was crying because Nathan Calloway did not have the right letters after his name. I looked at the ring on my finger. Copper and silver. Twisted by hand. Worth more than every piece of jewelry my mother had ever bought from a catalog. Nathan was watching me from across the kitchen. "Bad call?" "Expected call," I said. He nodded. He already knew. He had lived his whole life being told he was not enough. The difference between us was that he had stopped listening a long time ago. Let me tell you about 2 weddings. Vanessa's wedding was 3 years ago. 250 guests at the Farmington Club. My mother spent 6 months planning it. She rented a tent the size of a parking lot. She ordered orchids from Ecuador. She hired a calligrapher to hand-letter every place card. I was a bridesmaid. I wore a dress my mother picked. I stood in the back row of the photos. During the reception, I asked if I could say a few words. My mother shook her head. "You're not good with words, Fiona." My father gave a 12-minute speech. He called Vanessa the jewel of this family. He cried twice. I sat at the table and clapped. Total cost, $90,000. My parents paid every cent. Now, my wedding. I called my mother 3 weeks after the engagement. "Mom, would you be willing to help with the wedding at all? Even a little?" Silence. Then, "I can't support what I don't believe in." 0. That was the number. 90,000 for Vanessa. 0 for me. But the math got worse. 2 weeks later, I was going through old bank statements, sorting files for tax season, and I found it. A withdrawal from my grandmother's savings account, $3,000, the account Grandma Rose had left in my name for emergencies. My mother had withdrawn it 4 years ago. The memo line, V bridal shower, catering. She used my emergency money to cater Vanessa's bridal shower. I sat with that bank statement for a long time. I did not call her. I did not confront her. I folded the paper and put it in a drawer. Some things you do not need to say out loud. You just need to remember. We sent 68 invitations. Nathan and I designed them ourselves. Craft paper, navy blue ink. Simple. We sat at the kitchen table on a Sunday and addressed every single one by hand. His handwriting was neater than mine. Electrician's precision. 48 invitations went to Nathan's side. Union brothers from Local 35. Former clients. His mentor's widow. His foreman Doug. Neighbors. The woman who sold him his first truck. The couple who let him sleep on their couch when he aged out of foster care at 18. 20 invitations went to my side. My parents. Vanessa and Todd. 8 aunts and uncles. 6 cousins. 3 friends from nursing school. 2 colleagues from the clinic. Week 1. Responses from Nathan's side started arriving. Almost everyone said yes. A man named Jerry, who Nathan had wired a barn for 6 years ago, drove 40 minutes to hand-deliver his RSVP with a check for $200 inside. For the honeymoon, the note said. Week 2. Silence from my side. Not one RSVP, not one phone call, not one text. Day 16. 11 at night. I was sitting at the kitchen table. Nathan was asleep upstairs. My phone buzzed. Email from Diane Enright. BCC. 22 recipients. The Enright family will not be attending. That was the entire message. No explanation, no apology. No, we wish you well. One sentence. BCC'd to every person on my guest list. I sat there with the phone in my hand. On the table in front of me were 20 invitations, fanned out like a hand of cards nobody wanted to play. Navy ink on craft paper. Each one addressed in my handwriting. 20 invitations, 16 days. Not one reply. Then my mother hit reply all. 3 days later, my father called. It was a Wednesday. 6:15 in the evening. I was making pasta. Nathan was in the shower. I saw Dad on the screen and something in my chest folded in on itself. I picked up anyway. Fiona. Hi, Dad. His voice sounded tired. Not angry. Tired. Like a man who had been told what to say and was saying it before he lost the nerve. Your mother and I have talked. Okay. We won't walk you down the aisle to that electrician. That electrician. Not Nathan. Not your fiancé. Not even that man. That electrician. Like his hands were the problem. Like the calluses on his palms were a disease my family might catch. I leaned against the kitchen counter. The pasta water was boiling over. I did not move to turn it down. Is that what Mom said? Or what you think? Long pause. It's what we both decided. In the background, I heard my mother's voice, muffled but clear enough. Tell her it's not too late to come to her senses. I closed my eyes, took one breath, opened them. I understand. I'll walk alone. Silence. He had expected pleading. He had expected tears. He had rehearsed his response to my begging. He had not rehearsed this. Fiona. Good night, Dad. I hung up. Set the phone on the counter. Turned off the burner. Drained the pasta. Plated 2 servings. Set the table. Nathan came downstairs with wet hair and asked me why my eyes were red. My dad called. And? He said they won't come. Nathan sat down. He looked at his plate, then at me. Then we walk alone. No, I said. I walk alone. You'll be waiting at the altar. That night, after the pasta and the phone call and the silence that followed, Nathan and I sat on the back porch. The air was cold. March in Connecticut. He did not try to fix it. He did not tell me my parents were wrong, even though they were. He just sat beside me and let the quiet do the work. I've lived without family my whole life, he said after a while. I learned how to get by, but you shouldn't have to. Nobody should have to. Maybe that's the thing. I pulled my jacket tighter. Maybe I've been waiting for permission from people who were never going to give it. He reached over and took my hand. His palm was rough, warm. The hand of a man who had been building things since he was 16 because no one was going to build them for him. I will make sure you never feel alone, he said. That's the only promise I can make. The next morning, I made a decision. Not about the wedding. Not about my parents. About something Nathan carried with him every day. Something he kept in a small cedar box under our bed. I had seen it once. Months ago. He moved it when he changed the sheets. A small box, the size of a paperback novel, made of cedar wood. There was a brass latch on the front, but it was not locked. I asked him about it. He said, "Old stuff, nothing important." But the way he set it back, carefully, the same exact spot, aligned with the edge of the bed frame, told me everything. It was the most important thing he owned. That night, after he fell asleep, I decided I was going to open it. We planned the wedding without my family. Nathan's Union brothers handled the venue, a barn event space in Litchfield County. Old timber, high ceilings, a pair of oak doors at the back that swung open to a view of the hills. They rewired the whole building in one weekend, new lighting, fairy lights along the beams, everything to code. Doug Ferraro, Nathan's foreman, took charge of logistics. He was 45, built like a fire hydrant, and cried at every wedding he had ever attended. He showed up at our townhouse 3 weeks before the ceremony with a clipboard and a six-pack. "I'll walk you down the aisle if you need someone," he said. He was looking at the floor when he said it. "Thank you, Doug. But I need to do this myself." He nodded, cracked a beer, said nothing else about it. John Paletti was 72. Nathan had rewired her farmhouse kitchen 4 years ago. When she heard about the wedding, she drove over with 3 buckets of wildflowers from her garden and a roll of copper wire. "I used to own a flower shop," she said. "Let me do the arrangements. No arguments." Nathan's side filled the guest list. His mentor's widow, clients who had become friends, the couple who let him sleep on their couch after he aged out of care, a carpenter named Marcus who built us a wedding arch from reclaimed wood and refused to accept $1. My side, 3 colleagues from the clinic, 2 friends from nursing school. 5 people. That was all. But something kept pulling at me. Not the wedding. Not the guest list. Nathan's cedar box. The one under our bed. I had not opened it yet. Every night I told myself tomorrow. One night I asked Nathan about his childhood. We were lying in bed. Lights off. I could feel the edge of the cedar box under the mattress, a slight ridge against the box spring. He was staring at the ceiling. "Tell me about your mom," I said. He was quiet for so long I thought he had fallen asleep. Her name was Margaret. Past tense, like she had died. My parents divorced when I was 9. My father got custody because his family had money for a lawyer. My mother didn't. He paused. My father remarried. His new wife didn't want me. She told him, "It's me or the kid." He chose her. I was in the foster system by the time I was 10. I reached for his hand under the covers. I went through 4 homes before I turned 14. The third one had a man named Bill, who was an electrician. He showed me how to read a circuit diagram. That's how I ended up in the trade. "And your mom?" "She left. That's all I know." He said it flat. No anger, no sadness. Just a fact. Filed away in the same part of his brain where he kept wire gauges and building codes. Clean, organized, sealed. I looked at the bedroom doorway. I knew the cedar box was 4 feet below us. I knew it held something he could not bring himself to look at or throw away. It smelled like the inside of a closet nobody had opened in years. I had noticed it once when he pulled it out to move it during a deep clean. Cedar and old paper and something faintly metallic, like the memory of a key that no longer fit any lock. I did not ask about the box that night, but I decided. 2 weeks after the RSVP email, my Aunt Linda called. Aunt Linda was my mother's younger sister. She lived in Meriden. She sold real estate and collected ceramic angels. "Honey," her voice was careful, "your mom told us about Nathan." "What did she tell you?" "That he's from the system. Is that true?" "He grew up in foster care, yes, and he built his own electrical company." Pause. "I'm sure he's very nice. But your mom is really upset, sweetie. She said it's not safe. She said he might have a record. I pressed my phone so hard against my ear that it left a mark. He has no criminal record, Aunt Linda. He has never been arrested. He pays his taxes. He employs 5 people. I'm just telling you what your mother said. After we hung up, I sat down and made a list. I called 3 more relatives that evening. Each one had received a version of the same story. Diane had called at least 8 people. The narratives varied, but the message was the same. Nathan was dangerous, had no background, probably wanted my money. All of it was false. Nathan's income was higher than mine. He had a clean record. His credit score was 742. But truth does not travel as fast as a mother with a phone tree. I wrote one email, sent it to every relative on my guest list. Nathan Calloway owns Calloway Electric, licensed and bonded in the state of Connecticut. He has no criminal record. He earns his living with his hands. I am proud to marry him. If you have questions, call me. Not my mother. Nobody replied. But 3 people unblocked me on Facebook. That was something. Vanessa called on a Thursday evening. I was folding laundry. Nathan was out on a job, a rewire for a dentist's office in Torrington. I saw Vanessa's name and answered against my better judgment. Fee, I'm not trying to be mean. That is always the sentence that comes right before someone is mean. But you're embarrassing the whole family. Mom hasn't slept in weeks. Dad's blood pressure is up. People are talking. People are talking because Mom called everyone and lied about Nathan. She didn't lie. She's concerned. She told Aunt Linda he has a criminal record. He doesn't. Silence. I could hear Vanessa breathing, deciding. Look, she said. You could have done better. You know that. There are plenty of men with degrees who done better. I set down the towel. You mean married someone you and Mom approve of? I mean someone who matches the family. Matches what, Vanessa? Dad sells insurance. Mom answers phones. We're not the Kennedys. That's not fair. You want to know what's not fair? I leaned against the dryer. At your wedding, Mom sat me at table 14, the one next to the restrooms. She told me I didn't need to give a speech because I'm not good with words. I paid for my own dress. I drove myself home. Vanessa said nothing. I did do better, I said. I chose someone who actually shows up. She hung up. No goodbye, just the click and the silence after. I stood in the laundry room for a while. The dryer hummed. Nathan's work shirts tumbled behind the glass. I thought about the word embarrassing. I thought about table 14. I picked up the towel and kept folding. If you have ever been told that the person you love is not good enough, not because of who they are, but because of what they do, then you already know how this feels. And if you are still watching, I need you to stay. Because what I found inside Nathan's cedar box changed everything. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and let me show you. 6 weeks before the wedding, Nathan left for a 2-day job in Hartford. Commercial panel upgrade. He kissed me at the door at 5 in the morning and said he would call when he got to the hotel. I waited until his truck turned the corner. Then I went upstairs. The cedar box was where it always was. Under the bed, aligned with the edge of the frame. I pulled it out and set it on the mattress. The brass latch was not locked. It never had been. I opened it. Inside, 3 Polaroid photographs. The first showed a young woman holding a baby. She had dark hair, tired eyes, a smile that looked like it was trying very hard to exist. On the back, in blue pen, Nathan, 11 months. The second photograph. The same woman sitting on a porch step. She was wearing a blue sundress. The baby was asleep on her lap. The third. The woman alone. Older. Maybe 30. Standing outside a building I did not recognize. Underneath the photographs, a single envelope, yellowed, creased at the corners. The flap was tucked in, not sealed. I pulled out the letter. Lined paper, handwritten in careful script. My sweet boy, I am so sorry. One day you will understand that leaving was not the same as not loving you. I think about you every morning. I hope you are safe. I hope you are warm. I hope someone is reading to you at night. M. The return address on the envelope. Margaret Calloway, 2847 Southeast Division Street, Portland, Oregon. I read the letter 3 times. Nathan had kept this letter for 23 years. He never replied. He never went to Portland. But he never threw it away. I closed the box, put it back under the bed, and the next morning I called information in Portland, Oregon. The address was no longer active. Margaret Calloway had moved from Southeast Division Street more than a decade ago. The operator had no forwarding information. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I typed Margaret Calloway, Portland, Oregon into the search bar. The first 3 results were irrelevant. The 4th was a company website, Calloway Design Group, Architecture and Sustainable Building, Portland, Oregon, founded 2011. I clicked. The About page loaded. A professional headshot appeared. A woman in her mid-50s, silver hair cut short, high cheekbones, dark eyes, Nathan's eyes. I stared at the screen for a long time. Margaret Calloway was an architect. She ran a firm. She designed community housing projects and solar installations. She had won a regional design award in 2019. She was alive. She was successful. She had rebuilt herself. And she had never found her son. I wrote an email from my personal account. It took me 40 minutes to get the words right. I deleted it twice. The final version was 3 sentences long. My name is Fiona Enright. I am a nurse practitioner in Waterbury, Connecticut. I believe you may be the mother of someone I love very much. His name is Nathan. I pressed send at 11:47 in the morning. At 2:52 in the afternoon, 3 hours and 5 minutes later, my phone rang. A Portland area code. I answered. The woman on the other end was already crying. Is he alive? That was the first thing she said. Not, who are you, or how did you find me? Just, is he alive? Yes, I said. He's alive. He's healthy. He's getting married. To me. I heard her knees hit the floor. I am not guessing. I heard the sound of a woman's knees hitting hardwood. I flew to Portland 2 days later. I told Nathan I was visiting a college friend. It was the first lie I had ever told him, and it sat in my stomach like a stone. Margaret met me at a coffee shop on Hawthorne Street. She looked smaller in person than in her headshot. She wore a gray cardigan and her hands shook around her coffee cup. She started talking before I sat down. She married Dean Calloway at 19. He was a construction worker. Charming at first, then controlling. He decided what she wore, where she went, whether she worked. The answer to that last one was always no. When Nathan was 9, Margaret tried to leave. She packed a bag while Dean was at work and walked to her mother's house with Nathan's hand in hers. Dean showed up that night. He stood in the yard and said one sentence. You leave, you never see him again. His family had money. Hers did not. He hired a lawyer. She couldn't afford one. The court gave Dean full custody. Margaret was allowed supervised visits twice a month. Then Dean moved. No forwarding address. Dean remarried. His new wife did not want Nathan. Dean put him into the foster care system. He was 10 years old. Margaret didn't learn about the foster placement until 3 years later. By then the records were sealed. She hired a private investigator. The trail went cold. She tried again in 2015. Nothing. Every birthday, she said, I light a candle. I don't know if he's alive. I just light it and sit there. She looked at me across the table. Her eyes, Nathan's eyes, were raw and red. The day he was born, they wrapped him in a blue blanket. I still have that blanket. I showed Margaret photographs of Nathan on my phone. She held the screen with both hands. Her thumbs trembled. She swiped slowly. Nathan at a job site, Nathan in our kitchen, Nathan asleep on the couch with the cat on his chest. He has Dean's jaw, she said. But his eyes. Those are mine. I set the phone down. Margaret, I need to ask you something. Anything? Would you come to the wedding? She went still. The coffee shop hummed around us. A man at the next table turned a newspaper page. He might not want me there, Her voice dropped. He might hate me. He doesn't hate you. How do you know? Because he keeps your letter in a cedar box under our bed. He has kept it for 23 years. He has never thrown it away. Margaret pressed her hand over her mouth. Her shoulders shook. I gave him that box the day I left. It had his baby shoes inside. We sat with that for a long time. The noise of the coffee shop filled the space between us. I let it. When is the wedding? She asked finally. May 11th, 4 weeks from now. Where? A barn in Litchfield, Connecticut. 200 guests. But you will wait in a back room. I will nod to someone when it's time. He will open the door. You walk in. That is the plan. If Nathan tells you to leave, you leave. But I don't think he will. Margaret wiped her eyes. What should I wear? Blue, I said. Wear blue. He'll know. I flew home that night. Nathan picked me up at Bradley Airport. He asked where I had been. I told the truth. Part of it. Getting a wedding surprise ready. He smiled. He had no idea. 2 weeks before the wedding, my cousin Heather sent me a screenshot, a group text, 22 recipients, sent from my mother's phone at 8:43 in the morning. If anyone in this family attends Fiona's circus wedding to that foster kid, don't bother calling me again. Below the message, my father had added a thumbs-up emoji. That was his contribution. I read it in the parking lot of the clinic between patients. I sat in my car with the engine off and read it 3 times. Foster kid. 2 words. My mother chose them on purpose. Not Nathan, not her fiancé, not even that electrician. Foster kid. She stripped him down to the worst thing that ever happened to him and turned it into a label. I forwarded the screenshot to Nathan. I did not editorialize. I did not say, "Can you believe this?" I just sent it. He called me 5 minutes later. His voice was steady, but I could hear the tightness. Foster kid. He said it slowly, like he was tasting it. That's what she's going with. That doesn't define you. I know. He paused. But it still lands. I closed my eyes, leaned my head against the steering wheel. In 2 weeks, I thought, you will meet someone who has been looking for you for 15 years, and she will not call you a foster kid. She will call you her son. Nathan. Yeah. I love you, and I need you to trust me on something. Always. Good. Because the wedding is going to be different from what you expect. He laughed. A small, tired laugh. It's already different. We have no family on your side and 200 people on mine. Exactly, I said. It's already ours. Doug Ferraro showed up at the venue on a Saturday to help hang lights. I was there alone, tying wildflower bundles to the ends of the pew rows. He climbed a ladder with a strand of fairy lights and talked to me without looking down. You know Nathan turned down a contract last year? I looked up. What contract? Hartford Hospital. Full electrical overhaul for their new surgical wing. $240,000. He said no. I set down the wire cutters. He never told me that. Doug came down the ladder, sat on a hay bale, pulled a granola bar from his vest pocket and broke it in half. Offered me one. Nathan billed $417,000 last year. 5 employees, 2 trucks. He's the most requested licensed electrician in Litchfield County. Half the hospitals in Connecticut have his work in the walls. I stared at him. I knew Nathan made good money. I knew we were comfortable. But I had never heard the number. He turned down Hartford because you had just started your new position at the clinic. He didn't want to travel. He said, Fiona's career matters more right now. I pressed my palms against my knees. Your family should know, Doug said. They're not boycotting a nobody. They're boycotting the guy who wired half the hospitals in Connecticut. They'll figure that out eventually. Maybe. He chewed. Or maybe they won't. People like that. They don't care about numbers. They care about how things look. He was right. My mother would never ask Nathan how much he earned. She had already decided what he was worth the moment she heard the word electrician. A label was enough. It had always been enough for her. Doug finished his granola bar, climbed back up the ladder. We did not talk about it again. 1 week before the wedding, my mother showed up at my door. No phone call. No warning. Just her Lincoln parked in the driveway, and her finger on the doorbell at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I opened the door. She was wearing her good coat, pearl earrings, lipstick, full armor. I came to give you one last chance to cancel this. I looked at her. Diane Enright, 58 years old, former dental receptionist, former working-class girl from Waterbury's East Side. She had spent 40 years running from who she was, and here she was, standing on my porch, trying to make sure I ran too. Would you like some tea? She blinked. She had expected a fight. She did not expect hospitality. She sat at my kitchen table. I boiled water. She looked around the townhouse. The clean counters, the framed photographs, Nathan's boots by the back door, a vase of wildflowers Jean had dropped off the day before. This is what you chose, she said. A little house with a man who fixes things. Yes, and I'm happy. She set her jaw. Your father and I won't be there. I know. I poured the tea. I already set those chairs aside. Set them. What do you mean? Your seats, the 20 on my side. They'll be empty. Every guest will see them. She stood up. She had not touched the tea. At the door she turned. You'll regret this, Fiona. I met her eyes. Maybe. But I'd rather regret my own choices than live inside yours. She left. The Lincoln backed out of the driveway. I watched it disappear down Prospect Street. I went back to the kitchen, poured her untouched tea into the sink, washed the cup, set it upside down on the drying rack. 5 days before the wedding, my father called at 7 a.m. I knew why he chose that hour. My mother did not wake before 8. Fee. His voice was small. I want you to know I'm not proud of how this went. I was standing in the bathroom, toothbrush in hand. I set it down. Then come. Long silence. I could hear him breathing. I could hear the coffee maker in the background, the same one they had owned for 15 years. Your mother won't allow it. You're 60 years old, Dad. He exhaled. I know how that sounds. You do. I just wanted you to know, I don't hate the guy. Nathan, he seems decent. He is decent, but decent wasn't enough for you to show up. Another silence. Longer. Your mother, she had a hard time growing up. You know that. Her father, the sanitation job. Kids at school used to call her. I know the story, Dad. She doesn't want that for you. Nathan is not her father, and I am not her. He had nothing left. I could hear it in the way his breathing changed. The conversation was over before it ended. I love you, Fee. I know. He hung up. I stood in the bathroom holding my phone until the screen went dark. I looked at myself in the mirror. 32 years old. 5 days from my wedding. And the man who was supposed to walk me down the aisle just told me he loved me from behind a locked door he was too afraid to open. I picked up the toothbrush, brushed my teeth, got dressed, went to work. Some mornings, routine is the only thing between you and the floor. My father knew he was wrong. He just could not say it loud enough. If you are listening right now and you have ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up, I understand. But staying silent has a cost. And for my dad, that cost was about to arrive. If this story is hitting close to home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The rehearsal dinner was on a Friday evening. The barn looked beautiful. Nathan's crew had outdone themselves. Fairy lights along every beam. The oak doors freshly oiled, 200 chairs arranged in rows, a center aisle of reclaimed pine running between them. The left side, Nathan's. Packed. Union workers and their wives. Clients who had become friends. Marcus the carpenter who built our wedding arch and was now adjusting the angle for the 3rd time. Bajan arranging wildflowers at the end of every row. Doug pacing the aisle with a clipboard, muttering about sound levels. The right side, mine, 5 people. My colleague Sarah, my colleague Kim, my friend Priya from nursing school. 2 empty rows, and then 15 more chairs with nobody in them. Doug walked over. We can move some chairs from Nathan's side. Fill it in. No. I shook my head. Leave them empty. Let everyone see. Nathan stood at the far end of the aisle looking at those chairs. His jaw tightened. He shoved his hands into his pockets. They're missing out, he said. I know. Doug tried once more. Let me walk you tomorrow, Fiona, please. I put my hand on his arm. Thank you, Doug. I really mean that. But I need to do this alone. It has to be me. He nodded, wiped his eyes with the back of his wrist, went back to his clipboard. That night, after the rehearsal, after Nathan fell asleep in our bed with one hand on my hip, I slipped out of the house, drove 12 minutes to the Holiday Inn on Route 7, room 214. I knocked twice. Margaret opened the door, blue dress hanging on the bathroom hook behind her. She had been waiting. Are you ready? I asked. I've been ready for 23 years. Margaret sat on the edge of the hotel bed. I sat across from her on the desk chair. Between us, my phone with recent photographs of Nathan and a blue dress still wrapped in tissue paper. She held the phone close, swiped slowly. Nathan measuring a wall panel. Nathan laughing at something Doug said. Nathan asleep with our cat Diesel on his chest. He looks like his father, she said quietly. But his eyes, those are mine. She set the phone down, picked up the dress. It was cobalt blue, the kind of blue that does not apologize for itself. Simple cut. Silk. She had bought it in Portland the day after I called. The same shade as his baby blanket, she said. I remembered. I explained the plan one more time. She would wait in the back room of the barn. After the vows, I would look at Doug. I would nod. Doug would stand up. He would walk to the back and open the double doors. She would walk in. What if he tells me to leave? She asked. He won't. How can you be sure? I leaned forward. Because he kept your letter for 23 years. Under our bed. In a cedar box. Margaret's hands went to her mouth. I gave him that box the day I left. It had his baby shoes inside. Little white sneakers with blue laces. I had not known that. The shoes were not in the box when I opened it. Nathan must have taken them out years ago. Or maybe they were lost in one of the 4 foster homes. But the box survived. The letter survived. Bring the blanket, I said. The blue one from the day he was born. Bring it. She nodded. She could not speak. I drove home at midnight. Nathan was still asleep. He did not hear me come in. May 11th, 7 in the morning. The barn. I got dressed in a small room off the main hall. White dress. Simple. No train. No beading. I bought it at a consignment shop in Hartford for $320. It fit perfectly. My colleague Sarah zipped the back. Kim pinned a sprig of wildflower into my hair. My phone buzzed on the vanity table. I picked it up. Text from Diane. A photograph. Vanessa's wedding. The Farmington Club. 2023. Orchids. The 12-piece band. Vanessa in her $10,000 dress. My mother beaming beside her. Caption. This is what a real wedding looks like. I looked at the photograph for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Then I deleted it. Another text. Vanessa. Still time to postpone. I did not reply. Sarah and Kim were watching me. They knew. I had told them nothing about Margaret, nothing about the plan, but they knew something was happening behind my eyes. You okay? Sarah asked. Yes. I stood up, looked at myself in the mirror. White dress, wildflower in my hair, copper ring on my finger. I heard my father's voice in my head. We won't walk you down the aisle to that electrician. I looked at my reflection. I said one word out loud to no one and to everyone. Watch me. Sarah handed me the bouquet Jean had made, wildflowers bound with copper wire that Nathan had twisted himself the night before. Daisies, lavender, baby's breath, wrapped in a thin strand of copper that caught the light. I walked out of the room, down the short hallway, to the double doors that led to the main hall. 200 people on the other side, 15 empty chairs, 1 altar, 1 man. And in the back room, behind a door nobody was watching, A woman in a blue dress. 3 in the afternoon. Guitar music started. A friend of Nathan's, playing something slow and acoustic. I did not know the song. It did not matter. The front doors opened. I stood alone in the entrance of the barn. Afternoon light behind me. The aisle stretched ahead. 60 feet of reclaimed pine, wildflowers at every row, fairy lights above. The left side was full. Nathan's people, 200 of them, hands in laps, eyes forward. Jean Paletti in the third row, clutching a tissue. Doug in the front, arms crossed, already blinking hard. The right side, 5 people. Sarah, Kim, Priya, and 2 nursing school friends. Then 15 empty chairs. Bare. Obvious. A silence made of wood and cushion. I took the first step. My heels clicked on the pine. It was the loudest sound in the room. I did not look at the empty chairs. I did not look at the flowers or the lights or the barn doors behind me. I looked straight ahead. At Nathan. He was standing at the altar in a dark blue suit he had rented that morning. His hands were clasped in front of him. His jaw was set. His eyes were wet. I walked the full 60 feet alone. Each step a sentence. Each breath a paragraph. John leaned over to the woman beside her. That girl has more backbone than her whole family combined. I reached the altar. Nathan took my hand. His palm was rough, warm. You came alone, he whispered. I came to you, I said. The officiant began. I heard the words, but I was not listening. I was thinking about the door at the back of the barn, the one behind the last row of chairs. And behind that door, in a small room with a window that overlooked the hills, a woman in cobalt blue was sitting on a folding chair, holding a baby blanket she had kept for 32 years. Nathan pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket. His hands were shaking. Fiona. He cleared his throat. Started again. Fiona. I have lived most of my life without a family. He looked at the paper. Then he looked at me. He put the paper away. I learned to wire buildings because a man in my 3rd foster home showed me how to read a circuit diagram. I learned to work because nobody was going to pay my way. I learned to be quiet because nobody was listening. The barn was silent. 200 people. Not a cough. Not a whisper. But you listened. His voice cracked. He steadied it. You were the first person who asked me what I wanted, not what I could do for them. He took both my hands. His grip was tight. I don't have a family name to give you. I don't have a legacy. I don't have a mother who throws parties or a father who gives speeches. All I have is this. My word that I will show up every single day. I will never leave. I will never make you walk alone. Doug was crying openly. Jean had her face in her hands. Someone in the 5th row wiped their eyes with a napkin. The officiant turned to me. Fiona, your vows. I looked at Nathan. I had written my vows on a card. I left it in my pocket. Nathan, you say you have no family. My voice was steady, completely steady. But after today, that will never be true again. He blinked. He did not understand. Not yet. The officiant began the declaration. I let him speak. I was counting in my head. Waiting. Then I looked at Doug. I nodded. Doug stood up. He walked to the back of the barn. And he opened the door. Afternoon light flooded through the open doorway. A woman stood in the frame. Blue dress, silver hair, hands at her sides, completely still. 200 guests turned. Every head, every pair of eyes. Murmurs. Who is that? A woman in the 4th row leaned to her husband. Do you know her? Nobody knew her. Nobody except me. Nathan was still holding my hands. His grip changed, not tighter, but different. Like something electrical had passed through his fingers. He looked past me, past the guests, past the empty chairs on my side, at the woman in the blue dress. His face changed. It was not recognition. Not yet. Something deeper. Something older. A frequency he had not heard in 23 years. Not a sound, not a name, but a feeling. a pull behind his ribs. Margaret took one step forward, then another, her heels on the pine floor. The same sound mine had made minutes ago. Nathan's grip on my hands loosened, his breath caught. Fee. His voice was barely there. Fee. Who is... I found her, I whispered. His face opened, not collapsed. Opened. Like a door that had been sealed for decades swinging free. His knees buckled. He went down. Both knees on the barn floor. Right there at the altar. His rented suit on the dusty wood. He whispered one word, 2 syllables, but they did not come out whole. 23 years, and the word was stuck somewhere between his chest and his throat. That's my... He could not finish it. Margaret reached him. She knelt down. Cobalt blue silk on the barn floor. She put both hands on his face. Her hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. Nathan. Her voice broke on the second syllable. My sweet boy. The barn went silent. Then someone in the third row started crying. Then the row behind them. Then the whole room. Jean clutched her wildflower arrangement to her chest. Doug had his face in his hands. The officiant stepped back. He knew this was not his moment. I stood above them. I did not cry. I watched. Nathan held Margaret. He was shaking so hard I could see his shoulders moving from 3 feet away. She was whispering into his hair. I could hear fragments. I looked for you. Every birthday. I never stopped. He pulled back, looked at her face. His cheeks were wet. I thought you chose to leave. I was forced, but I never stopped choosing you. He made a sound. Not a word. Something older than language. Something a 9-year-old boy had locked away the day his mother disappeared. It came out now, 23 years late, in a barn full of strangers. I knelt beside them, took Nathan's other hand. He looked at me. His eyes, Margaret's eyes, raw, red, wide. You did this? You kept her letter for 23 years. You never threw it away. He pressed his forehead against mine. He could not speak. Margaret looked at the copper ring on my finger. He made that, didn't he? Yes. He used to twist wire into shapes when he was little. Airplanes, stars, little animals. Her voice fractured. You married a good man. The officiant stepped forward, gently. Should we continue? Nathan wiped his face with his sleeve, stood up, helped Margaret to her feet. He held her hand for a moment longer. Then he turned to the officiant. Yes. Let's finish this. The ceremony completed. The officiant said the words. Nathan kissed me. 200 people stood. The applause shook the rafters. A guest in the 5th row, a plumber named Ray who Nathan had worked with on a school project, was holding up his phone. He had been recording since the door opened. He posted the video that evening. Caption: Groom meets his birth mother at his own wedding. The bride arranged it. By 10 that night, it had 400,000 views. By midnight, 2 million. At the reception, Margaret sat at the head table, the seat that would have been my mother's. Nathan and Margaret talked for 3 hours straight. They barely ate. He showed her photographs on his phone, job sites, our townhouse, Diesel the cat. She showed him pictures of her house in Portland, her office, her dog named Blue. You named your dog Blue? She smiled. After your blanket. He looked at his hands, then at her. I kept the box. I know. Fiona told me. The baby's shoes were gone. I lost them somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd foster home, but I kept the box. And your letter. Margaret reached into the bag at her feet. She pulled out a folded piece of fabric. Faded. Soft. Unmistakably blue. This is the blanket they wrapped you in. Nathan took it. He held it against his chest like it was the most fragile thing in the world. Meanwhile, the video was spreading. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Ray the plumber had captioned it, and now the algorithm was doing the rest. Comments poured in. I'm sobbing at work. This is what love actually looks like. Who are the parents who boycotted this wedding? At midnight, I checked my phone. The screen was full. 14 missed calls from Diane, 7 from Robert, 3 from Vanessa, 1 text from my mother. What did you do? The same question my father had used months ago after the RSVP email. But the weight had shifted. Back then, it was an accusation. Now, it was something closer to fear. I looked at the phone. Nathan was asleep beside me, still in his suit, one hand resting on the cedar box. Margaret had brought the baby shoes. She had found them in a storage unit years ago and kept them. They were back inside the box now, where they belonged. I turned the phone face down on the nightstand. Tonight belonged to us. The next morning, 7 o'clock, a knock at the door. I was in the kitchen making coffee. Nathan was in the shower. I opened the door. My father, alone. No coat, despite the May chill. His eyes were red. He looked like he had not slept. I watched the video. I did not invite him in. I stood in the doorway with my coffee cup and let the silence do its work. I watched it 6 times. His voice cracked on the number. The woman in the blue dress. She really hadn't seen him in 23 years? No. And you found her yourself? Yes. He put his hands in his pockets, took them out, put them back in. He could not find a place for them. We called him a foster kid. He said it slowly, like the words tasted different now. We boycotted his wedding. And you gave him back his mother. I watched his face. This was not the man who had said that electrician on a Wednesday evening in March. This was a man who had watched a 2-minute video 6 times and realized that the daughter he underestimated had done something he could never undo. I should have been there, he said. I should have walked you down that aisle. I should have. You chose not to. I know. A bird sang somewhere in the maple tree by the driveway. The morning was cool and still. I'll call you next week, Dad, but I need you to know something. I looked at him. I'm not angry. I'm just done waiting for permission to be happy. He nodded, walked to his car, sat in the driver's seat for 10 minutes before he turned the key. I closed the door, went back to the kitchen, poured a second cup of coffee for Nathan. 1 week after the wedding, the video hit 8 million views. A local Connecticut news station ran a segment. Bride surprises groom with birth mother reunion at wedding. They called it the most watched wedding clip of the year. They did not mention my family's boycott. The comments did it for them. The calls started coming, not from strangers, from the 68 people who had received our invitations. 47 of them reached out. Texts, calls, direct messages. Most said some version of the same thing. I'm sorry I didn't come. 3 of my aunts sent flowers. 2 cousins left voicemails. 1 uncle mailed a card with a check inside. Vanessa called on a Wednesday. Her voice was different, smaller, stripped of the performance. I saw the video. Mom saw it too. And? She's not doing well. Nobody in the family is talking to her. 3 of her sisters blocked her on Facebook. That's her consequence, Vanessa. A long pause. Fee. Her voice dropped. Mom chose my husband for me too. Did you know that? I paused. The laundry room hummed around me. Nathan's work shirts in the dryer. No, I didn't know that. She introduced us. She pushed the engagement. She planned the wedding because she wanted to plan the wedding. Todd was her pick, not mine. I stood still. I was the embarrassment, not you, Vanessa said. I just didn't know it yet. I thought about that for a long time after we hung up. My mother, for her part, had not called since the night of the wedding. Robert reported that she watched the video daily. She had not apologized. She had told him, I wasn't wrong. I was just unlucky. Robert was sleeping in the guest room. He did not say for how long. Some consequences are measured in chairs. Others are measured in rooms. Nathan and Margaret talk on the phone every Sunday now. He visited her in Portland last month. She is coming for Thanksgiving. The cedar box sits on the bookshelf in the living room. Open. The baby shoes back inside, next to the letter and the Polaroids. Margaret's baby blanket folded on the shelf below. Faded blue. 32 years old. Soft as a whisper. When people ask me if I have forgiven my mother, I say this: when she is ready to apologize, a real apology, not a performance, I will listen. Until then, the door is closed. Not locked, just closed. I walked down that aisle alone, but I walked out of that barn with more family than I have ever had. That is my story. 68 invitations, 1 cedar box, and a woman in a blue dress who changed everything. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share this video. Thank you for being here. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.